What is going on, guys and gals? Welcome back to the channel. If you are new here, please feel free to subscribe. Mostly we talk about Cardinal baseball related topics, but today I want to do something a little bit different. Uh, I was got one of my loopholes where I was going through stats on the website on Baseball Reference, and Brandon Webb's name came up, and I wanted to kind of look at what went wrong with Brandon Webb. Like, where is he? What's he doing? How did it all fall apart for him? And why did it happen like that to a guy that was so good for 4 or 5 years, just so dominant, and then all of a sudden fell off the face of a cliff, fell off the planet, and now it's completely out of baseball. So I have his Baseball Reference page up right now, and you can see that he was born in 79, so he's still just 38 years of age. He'll turn 39 in May, but realistically, there's a chance he could still even be playing right now in 2018. He could be helping a team out potentially, as he was a very good sinker ball pitcher. If we scroll down here, I want you to look kind of at some of his standard pitching stats here on Baseball Reference. You can see he came up in 03 and made 28 starts that year, pitched one game out of the bullpen, threw one shutout. But his real key to his success was his durability. You can see twice he was a league leader in games started. He was also a league leader in wins 2 different times. He was a league leader in shutouts 2 different times. Led the league in complete games in 07. Led the league in innings pitched in 07. You can see he was very good at limiting the home run. League leader in 06 there. He was an all-star in 06, 07, 08. Finished 3rd in Rookie of the Year voting in 03. Was an all-star, like we said, in 06, 07, 08. Won a Cy Young in 06. Finished 2nd in both 07 and 08. Finished 17th in MVP voting in both 07 and 08. And then his career pretty much ended at that point. If you want to, let's just go through. We could even include his rookie year here. If we just select all these seasons until 2009, and I'll talk about 2009 here in just a second. So 03 to 08, he had an 87 and 62 win-loss record with a 3.24 ERA. He started 197 games. 15 of them he went complete game. 8 of them he was a shutout. His ERA plus over that time was 143, so he was 43% above the league average pitcher in terms of ERA during that time span. Not a big strikeout guy. Did walk his share, but he did not allow a lot of home runs because of his dominant sinker ball. Just 90 home runs over that stretch of time. If you took those numbers and averaged them out, he'd come out to 14 and 10 with 33 starts, 2 complete games, 1 shutout, and 219 innings. So very good. If we get rid of that rookie year and just do, these 5 here, 04, 05, 06, 07, and 08, that comes out to an even lower, ERA of 330, ERA plus of 140, with an improvement in his complete games over an average of 3 complete games over a 34 start stretch, 15-11. And then if you take out the year where he lost 16 games because he was on a bad team, let's see, there we go. So 05 to 08, his average season was an 18-9 season with 232 innings pitched. So fairly significant there for sure. ERA plus of 143 again, ERA of 323. So to me, that's pretty awesome that he was able to compile those numbers over a short stretch of his career. He made a decent amount of money, but he could have obviously made a lot more. 2009, he made the start, I believe it was at Colorado. It was definitely against Colorado. And he was a starting pitcher on opening day, went 4 innings, gave up 6 hits, 6 runs, all of them that earned 2 home runs, 2 walks, struck out 2 and hit a batter. And he left that start. There's an interesting article out there. You can search it, type in like Brandon Webb 2009 start or something like that, or end of Brandon Webb's career, something to that effect. And you can see this chart, but basically what it came out to was his velocity in that start in 2009. He typically didn't throw real hard, mostly in the upper 80s, but if you look through that start, it shows, I think it either shows by inning or by pitch. And anyway, at the beginning of the game, he was right 87, 88, 89 miles an hour. And by the time he finished the game in the fourth inning, his last couple batters, he was throwing like 83, 84 with his fastball. So he saw a significant decrease in velocity. He was quoted after the game as saying, I'm going to paraphrase, essentially that, he had some discomfort, but he expected to make his next start. And then a few days later, they said everything was going well. He should be able to make his start on his next scheduled turn. Long story short, they kept pushing that back. He kept having some discomfort with throwing. He ended up having surgery, I believe, in August of that year, 2009. And never really ever came back from that. I think he had another operation or two on his shoulder, but they termed it shoulder bursitis initially, which is basically inflammation of a bursa sac in the shoulder. They had multiple operations done to hopefully correct the issue. None of them were successful. He did sign a contract with the Rangers. Was it before the 2010 season, perhaps? Let me see if it's on here. His contracts. Yeah, so before 2011. After 2010, he signed a contract with the Rangers for the 2011 season for $3 million and never made it to the Major League system or Major League roster. He was with them in spring training and even threw a little bit, but obviously not well enough to make it to the big leagues. If I want to switch over to Fangraphs here and show you some interesting numbers as well. So this is from 04 to 08. So I took out his rookie year. We can include it if we want to. I took out his rookie year and just did 04 to 08. So that's a 5-year stretch. So one of the best 5 years of any pitcher was Brandon Webb. He came in at number 4 in terms of value in dollars at 133.4, just a shade behind CC Sabathia at 133.6. The wins above replacement over that time for these pitchers over that 5-year stretch, Brandon Webb comes in 3rd behind Roy Oswalt and Johan Santana. And if we want to look at his standard pitching numbers, we'll go to the dashboard. Wins over that 5-year stretch for pitchers, which I know isn't the tell-all, but it gives an indication of how well you're pitching as well as how well your team is during that time frame. Brandon Webb comes in 4th, just behind Carlos Zambrano. In terms of games started, Brandon Webb is tied for first with Greg Maddux over that time. He had one more start than Santana, Lowe, Zito, and Livan Hernandez. Innings pitched over that 5-year stretch, Brandon Webb comes in number 2 behind Johan Santana. And then while we got this up here, you can kind of look through, compare him to some of Santana was obviously the class of baseball in that 5-year stretch. If you look at Ks per 9, Santana was striking out more than 2 batters per 9 innings than Brandon Webb was. But like we mentioned, Webb's not a big strikeout pitcher. Webb was walking more guys at 2.89 walks per 9. But he was limiting the home run better than Santana was. Left on base percentage down. Ground ball percentage, this is where he really shined. And we'll highlight this column just so you can see it. Brandon Webb had a 64.4% ground ball rate during that frame. Better than everybody, including Derek Lowe, who was well known for his ground ball rates. Roberto Hernandez of the Indians. Chen-Ming Wong of the Yankees. Jake Westbrook, who was always known for having a good sinker. Tim Hudson was known for having a good sinker. So interesting to see those numbers there. His ERA, 3.30. Let's flip over to that. So 3.30 put him at number 12 over that 5-year stretch, behind guys like Clemens, Santana, Peavy, Chris Carpenter, Rich Harden, Lincecum, Smoltz, etc. If we include his rookie season, I'm just interested for myself to see what this shows in terms of WAR and innings pitched and all that. So WAR, he comes in at number 4 there. Halladay moves ahead of him if you include the 03 season. If we look at ground ball rate, let's see if he's still at the top there. He is. Game started. He'll fall behind a couple guys here. So he comes in at number 6 behind Mark Burley, Livan Hernandez, Lowe, Zito, and Maddux. If you include that extra season, his rookie year where he started 28 games, I believe it was. But anyway, obviously a very dominant pitcher over that time of the mid-2000s. One of the best in all of baseball, not just the National League, but in all of baseball. And you can tell as he won a Cy Young Award in 06, finished second for 2 straight years. Actually got MVP votings those 2 years. Finished 3rd in Rookie of the Year voting in 03. So a very, very, very talented pitcher. And I wanted to show you a couple of things I found as far as his pitching mechanics go. If you don't know, I work in the healthcare setting, and I work as an athletic trainer as well as a physical therapist assistant in an outpatient physical therapy setting. I also provide home health services. So I've gone to school quite a bit to figure out like how the body works and what is optimal, what is less efficient. Let me say this first. Throwing in general is very hard on the shoulder. It can be very damaging to the shoulder, the elbow, your shoulder blade, the muscles around all that stuff, even your hips and your knees and your low back. It's a very uncomfortable, functional, I wouldn't even call it functional. Essentially, it's a position your body is not supposed to be in for very long periods of time. So just throwing in general, it can be very, very hard on the human body. And I'll just leave it at that. So let me show you this video I found on YouTube. It was posted by Long Larry 121212 on July 27, 2008. And he says, this is the ace pitcher for the Diamondbacks, former Cy Young winner Brandon Webb. So this is when Webb was still at the peak of his career, right? He was in 2008. He would go on to win 22 games. He led the leagues in starts. He finished second Cy Young voting that year. But I want to look at when the pitcher's foot first hits the ground, his lead foot first hits the ground. So right here, I was able to pause it right when Brandon Webb's left foot, his stride foot, first hit the ground. And you can see his throwing arm is kind of back behind his body. I'll have another video to show you here in a second where you can see it better. And his arm is kind of tilted almost at an angle downward, okay? With his arm being back in that position, so if you want to go ahead and do that while you're watching at home or on your phone or wherever you're at, if you bring your arm into the position his is, where you bring your elbow behind your body and then bring your arm pointing down, you can probably almost feel some of the strain it puts on your shoulder just from being in that position. Now imagine doing that more than anybody in the world over that time frame, and how much strain that could potentially build up on your shoulder. And like I said, I have a better image of it here. But what I mentioned about this picture is that position he's in, and it puts a lot of strain on his shoulder blade, which is your scapula. It puts a lot of strain on that complex, that shoulder complex, and those muscles around the shoulder blade. So here's the better picture and video I want to show you. I just did a Google search on Brandon Webb pitching mechanics, and this came up. So this is from Stephen Ellis, apparently, on letstalkpitching.com. Just a quick Google search found it. And this was posted on February 15th. And it says 15th, but you hold your mouse over, it says February 4th. Anyway, I'll blow it up, and you won't be able to see on the right side of your screen because my mugshot's in the way. But these are side-by-side comparisons, so you'll be able to see the side view and the front view here of his throwing arm. So I'm going to pause it here. So he comes up tall, which is really good. He's got a nice high leg kick, which, you know, is what it is. It helps you build momentum. What I'm going to try to do is pause this right when his foot hits the ground. So bear with me here. We'll go through these slowly. Okay, so you can see his stride foot, his toes are just now starting to hit the mound dirt. And you can see how his arm's kind of flat right here. It's what I would call is a little behind or a little late. And on the right side, if you can see it, that elbow is behind the body again. So that position I was telling you about earlier, where you if you bring your arm straight up and then pull your elbow backwards and bring your arm like if you're holding the ball, bring it down towards the ground a little bit, you can almost feel a little bit of a strain in the front of your shoulder in that position. I'm going to try and go just a smidge further. And you can see, okay, now he's starting to get some hip rotation. So the foot's flatter now on the dirt, and his hips slightly started to rotate there if you saw it in the video. I'm going to try and go one smidge further ahead, but you can see his arm's still in that same position. His shoulder blade is taking a lot of strain here, and it's the front of his shoulder, the head of his humerus is coming forward because of his arm being back behind him. One more click. Okay, so there. So this, now look at the right side of the screen. This position is what I would like to have seen from Webb when his foot was just starting to hit the ground. Instead, he doesn't get there until his foot is more flat. His hips have started to rotate more. And so now he's got much less stress on his arm in this position if he arrives there early, and can help him alleviate stress over accumulating tons and tons of pitches. Let's go ahead and go through it here, because I believe there's another round of it. Yeah, so I'll try to do the same thing on this round here. So again, nice high leg kick. Comes down. I'll try and pause it. Right there. So same thing. Elbow is way back behind his body. Arm is at kind of angled downward just slightly. But the shoulder blade's taking a lot of brunt here again. I'm okay with his front arm. A lot of times you hear people talk about the front arm, how it should be high or low or wherever. I'm okay with where his front arm's at. I'm not really too worried about that. He uses it actually to generate a lot of leverage for himself to pull it forward and to pull his whole body forward. So I'm going to take this just a smidge further ahead and try and watch his hips on the right side if you can see it, or on the left side, either one, and watch the rotation he gets. So he got, I mean, that's a ton of rotation just like that. So you can tell he had a strong core, strong rotators through his core into his hips to allow him to generate as much force as he did in just that millisecond of time. And that allowed him to, stay around for as long as he did. Like, if he didn't have that, he probably would have, his arm probably doesn't last as long as it did. He wouldn't have been as dominant for 5 or 6 years in the major league level. He may not have even made it to the major league level if he didn't have that going for him. But still, even at this point, that shoulder blade is still loaded pretty heavily. And, that puts a lot of strain on the front of the shoulder. I hope this wasn't boring for you guys. I'm just trying to explain it the best way I can. Like I said, I got in one of those loopholes, and I saw this. His name came up, and I started looking through his stats. I was like, this guy was, really good for a really long time. It's a shame that his career ended the way it did. But I think some of the issue was the way his shoulder blade was loading, taking a lot of stress, and the way his arm was behind him just slightly put a lot of stress on the front of his shoulder, which, like I mentioned at the beginning, throwing is not natural. It's not supposed to be good for your arm. That's why you see so many injuries. The way he's throwing in these short couple clips are allowing him to create a lot of movement on his pitches, I guess is the best way to say it. By his arm being in that position at that late of a time, he's allowing his body to get in front, and he's going to create more movement, especially with his sinker. He's going to get more arm side run with that type of throwing mechanic, which helped him quite a bit. And maybe, who knows, maybe if he didn't do that, maybe he wouldn't have been nearly as successful, and maybe he never has the career that he has if he tries to quote-unquote correct his throwing arm in this motion. Everybody's different. Everybody throws differently. So I don't think there is a perfect throwing motion, especially for a guy at the major league level. If he's having success, why would you ever try and change him? Maybe the Diamondbacks saw that he had some less than efficient throwing mechanics, or putting more strain on his shoulder than they would like. But the guy finished first in Cy Young in 06, finished second in 07 and 08 respectively. So why would you try and mess with him? Why would you try and change that? So I don't blame them for not doing anything. I don't blame Brandon Webb for not changing things, because he's very successful. And I don't know Brandon Webb, so maybe he tried to change his mechanics after he struggled with injuries. He likely did, but wasn't able to make it work for him. So I just wanted to bring that up. But it proves the point that, no matter how good of a pitching star you are, you can change really fast. A lot of times we look at, most of you watching these are Cardinal fans. If you look at, like, let's say a Carlos Martinez, he obviously has different pitching mechanics than you would consider textbook or whatever, but it works for him right now. So why would you change it? He's been very successful the way he's been pitching. He's been an all-star, so why mess with it? Kind of like Clayton Kershaw or Usain Bolt or Michael Jordan. You wouldn't change anything with any of those guys the way they play the game, because they're doing it at the highest level, and they're competing at the highest level, and they're having a lot of success. So why would you try to change the way they're doing stuff at the risk of causing injury to them, or making them less successful or less powerful, whatever the case may be? So comment below. I know this was a long video about something about, basically about Brandon Webb, who some of you guys probably don't even remember even played in the major leagues, but he was very dominant for a 4 or 5, 6 year stretch, and then injuries took over and he was done just like that. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. If you want to see more videos kind of like this, I'd be more than happy to do them. I do this kind of stuff on my own free time where I look at pitching mechanics and break them down. I do it for like local athletes too. I'll watch their throwing mechanics and break them down. It's just kind of fun for me to do, to kind of look at where their body is moving well, where their body is not moving as efficiently as they would probably need it to. But like I said, comment below with your thoughts, and I'll see you in a future video. Thank you again for watching, and see you next time. Peace.